For joining us. The Prime Minister has been on a cash and jobs splash through South East Queensland. Tonight she's at Redbank Plains for Community Cabinet and Max Futcher is there. Max, what sort of reception has the PM had?
Now, Bill, plenty of smiles and greetings as she made her way around the Ipswich area today. But if those polls are to be believed, she's playing to a tough crowd here in the Sunshine State, especially that news poll last week which showed Labor's primary vote in Queensland slumping to its lowest level of 22%. So a big job ahead. Those figures would mean that in this part of the world, the likes of Bernie Ripoll and Shane Newman, the local Labor MPs, would lose their seats were an election to be held this week. But the Prime Minister is pressing on. She's got her whole cabinet here this week. They're out there burning up the boot leather and trying to win Queenslanders back. Sandbagging in Ipswich.
How different is that from doing them by hand?
But holding back the anti-Labor tide in the Sunshine State is much harder. Last week's news poll showed Labor would lose all 8 remaining Queensland seats were an election held now. So the Prime Minister has come to listen.
I am spending a lot of time north of the border. I've been here since Saturday.
And she came bearing gifts. 46,000 for the Ipswich SES, 21 million for a new cancer care centre in Springfield. Her ministers are all here for tonight's Community Cabinet as well. And the funding announcements continued. The Defence Minister with a maintenance contract.
We're announcing today the signature between Sikorsky and the Commonwealth for $124 million worth of maintenance for our Black Hawks and our Seahawk.
It's good news for the workers here in Brisbane. It's also good news for the people of Queensland.
And Bill Shorten was with workers at Swanbank. The PM visits North Queensland next. Expect her to be a common sight as next year's election looms, shoring up support.
Have a team doing 4 at a time, pump it out quickly, move it around.
Good advice when a flood looks likely. Yeah, a flood of discontent perhaps here in Queensland, and that could be reflected here at Redbank tonight for the Community Cabinet. I say could because the Prime Minister concedes that while she does expect the questions on carbon pricing and mining tax, there's always those unexpected questions, usually on local topics. So that's Community Cabinet for you. Federal politics at its most grassroots level, Georgie.
Sure is. Thank you, Max Futcher. And now to Cathy Border at State Parliament. And Cathy, the Prime Minister obviously welcomed cameras, but there were none in State Parliament.
No, Georgie, for the first time, question time without our TV cameras in there, so we can't show you what the people in the public gallery freely saw today. The Speaker, Fiona Simpson, made a statement to the House outlining why she has thrown the TV cameras out for 9 sitting days. Now, she says that this relates back to those rowdy scenes last month with the civil union debate when the TV showed pictures of the public gallery in uproar. Independent Peter Wellington has spoken out about this. He's told the House that he'll move a motion of dissent against the Speaker's ruling. That has to be debated within 3 sitting days. He's been joined by a Labor MP, but what's particularly irritated Mr Wellington is the fact that one of the reasons given as to why the public gallery shouldn't be shown is that it's a safety issue.
Oh, I think that's rubbish. Look, I've been in Parliament for 14 years. That's rubbish. And it's ridiculous to me that in 2012, the year of the electronic age, for some reason we cannot have media footage of what's happening in the public gallery.
I think it's disgraceful. I think that TV should be allowed into the chamber because it's an issue of democracy.
That's Joanne Miller. Now, there will be a big announcement made tomorrow. That is that Brisbane will be hosting the G20 World Leaders Summit in November 2014. So that's around 4,000 delegates. So that's a big deal for Brisbane.
It is. Thank you, Cathy Border at State Parliament. However, outside the House, it was revealed that public tenants will be forced to pay more rent to stay in properties too big for their needs. As Tim Collins explains, the Housing Minister believes it's the only way to help desperate families.
And already tough decisions just become a whole lot tougher.
We just have no choice but to house thousands more Queenslanders.
A state government survey claims nearly 9,000 public housing properties have 2 or more bedrooms which aren't being used by the tenants. And with an alarming number of families on the government's waiting list for somewhere suitable to live, that's simply unsustainable.
Under-occupancy is costing other Queenslanders their chance to be housed.
Letters will shortly be going out to hundreds of tenants, many of them aged pensioners, to brace for rent hikes if they stay in a home too big for them.
Needless to say, that was not as popular.
And a bitter pill to swallow for someone like Connie, whom we met a fortnight ago.
This is my home. This is the home that my husband passed away in.
If people were given the impression that they were being pressured out of their home, then I think it would be a bad thing.
And for those looking to buy a new property, this handy website does the math, comparing suburb against suburb and why cheaper might not be better.
Emotion sells houses, but I think at the background it's important that people have an understanding of the price that those emotions come with.
The My Home, My Suburb site is available online from today. Tim Collins, 10 News.